Let's call the August 10th Downtown Facilities Committee to order. Changes to the agenda. There's one be resolution B, resolution A. So we do things in the proper order. Public comment. Who do we have?
I think we have one person on Zoom here that would like to speak. Lisa, are you interested in speaking to the committee?
Hey, Lisa, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Unmute yourself. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm not a big Zoomaroo. I just wanted to speak at this meeting because one of the buildings that you're looking to tear down was my dad's office building. His name was J. Victor Bignardi, the professional building at 308 North Tioga Street, which he designed and worked out of for many, many years. I know I only have 3 minutes, but you know, he designed things to bring a lot of nature and natural light inside. He designed things well and stable. They were original and unique and very classic, so they could extend through time. He considered the area around where he was building and buildings nearby to complement. And with the materials he used, they were mostly natural materials, like Lenrock, which is local. He designed schools, churches, county buildings, and private homes throughout this area for many, many years. Unfortunately, he passed away in '92, but there are other buildings that were here. So in doing this, I ask you all, because when he designed things, he was considerate of the neighbors in the neighborhood around, the impact when you demolish something that can never be replaced, and what you build will be there for a long period of time. The building that he put there is an iconic building with the large circles and the plantings on the interior, an atrium. And he always wanted to bring things inside. So I would hope that in moving forward, if you go with this plan, which I'm not real thrilled about, because I would hope that you would consider these things. My father was also the architect to the old library building. And the reason it was curved was to also be complementary to the Presbyterian Church. And he went back to the drawing board a couple of times because they wanted that building to be able to have floors in it. It was stable enough to do that. And that's why the foundation to it was reinforced so much. So I know that in the part that I learned about this and the Ithaca Voice, that it said that any potential negative impacts have been effectively mitigated. I question that a little bit, especially with there's no detailed plans that have been done. And I was curious why it needed to be 5 stories tall. And I also noted in that article that it said that most people will be walking to this building. I know many people that cannot walk to this building, but would need those services, especially if you're putting the Board of Elections there. And some of them are elders that need a place to park. I know my dad also designed the parking garage that is in disrepair, unfortunately. But things, I would just hope that you could consider these things moving forward, because to tear down everything and make it look like everything else is not what Ithaca is. I was born and raised here, and I've seen it change so much. I understand things change, but keep some of the history, you know? Have you seen downtown Corning? They keep the exterior. It's historic on the outside. They may have gutted the inside, but they've kept it historic. People want to come to downtown Ithaca to see the history, to experience that and the energy that it used to have. I know many people that don't want to go down there anymore, unfortunately. And that's sad to me. And I know that it would be sad to my dad. I have other brothers and sisters that don't live in the area, but they don't know this news yet. And I know they would be speaking to you as well. So please do the right thing. You know, don't take everything away that Ithaca is all about. And that's an iconic building. So if you're going to destroy it, maybe you could use parts of it and just add on. It's a really solid space. Some of the other places, you know, you can't Google my dad and see what he did or designed. I wish I had the drawings, the original blueprints to give you for that space, but I don't. But he has done many great things in this town. He designed BOCES. He designed some churches in the area. He's designed private homes. He designed the Glenwood School, which has an atrium in it as well. And now it's the House of Racker Center, which is lovely. But they kept the original building. They've added on to it. They've kept the nature coming in. But like I say, you know, don't build something, it's going to be there for a long time. And let's make it a good space if you're going to have to tear down all those buildings. I don't know what else to say, but I just say, please do the right thing. Or if there's other information I can help you gather, I am more than willing to help in any way that I can.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate your comments, and thank you for contacting us and being part of this meeting. You'll have other opportunities, I'm sure, to speak to either this committee or the legislature before that building gets built. So, hang in there.
I appreciate your time and thank you very much. Remember history. It always passes on to the younger, and they need that to move forward. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment? See anybody here? Shadows.
I just want to let the committee know I met with several of the neighbors on Sears Street last Wednesday after the agenda was published, and just tried to answer any questions. They were generally supportive of the resolutions that are before us today. They would also like to very much to continue to be involved in hearing about any development decisions on the Sears Street side of property and Taylor Street, but in the 400 block. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Anybody else? Okay. Chair's report. It's been a long year. We've skipped many a meeting waiting for this day to show up, and I for one say I'm proud we finally got here. It's been a long road, thanks to the staff that made it happen. Beyond that, I guess we'll go to minutes approval. You know, if somebody do the minutes of May 13th, please. Rich, Deborah, seconds. Any changes? All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, move on to resolutions. As I said, we're going to do resolution B first, making a negative declaration of environmental significance in relation to resolution number whatever of 2021, authorizing the acquisition of property for a new office building ID 10-302. No, move that. We have a second. Deborah? Thank you. How else? Deborah?
Yeah, I'd just like to remind everybody that the environmental significance of which we're evaluating here is simply the county's acquisition. It's not construction, so people who are looking far ahead to what's going to replace the buildings that are there now are not viewing this environmental evaluation in the correct light.
Very true. Anybody else? Michael?
I think Deborah's right. We're talking about two pieces of land adjacent to our downtown campus. Very much as Tioga Street property was very close to our downtown campus. We've made no decision about building a building anywhere. But this gives us the opportunity to look at that. And where we'll be going from here, I'm not sure. I'm not ready tomorrow to build a building there. And I don't think our negotiations here through our administration and attorneys is suggesting that we go land speed to put out a $20 million building. But having the ground for it is very, very important. And I think that's what we have to do.
Okay.
Dave, excuse me, Jonathan has his hand up.
Jonathan, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, just to be clear on the environmental assessment form, which you're voting on, and the negative declaration. Under seeker law, you're supposed to, under the case law, evaluate the environmental significance of an action often long before you know exactly what you're going to do. So when you acquire a parcel, you're supposed to do an environmental analysis of what is likely there in the future. Arguably, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what the case law says. So basically what you do is you do what you think might likely be there, and you sort of, not to use the worst case scenario, but you kind of look at what might have the maximum environmental impact. So for example, we are thinking of a building that may be as small as 40,000 square feet or something, but a maximum of 65. So you do the environmental assessment on 65. It doesn't mean there's necessarily going to be an office building there. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be on 65,000 square feet. It's just that you have to do an environmental analysis before you really know what's going to be there to comply with the law. So you do your best to look at what might have the maximum environmental impact. Obviously, it's not going to be a landfill. It's going to be some kind of building. So I wouldn't, look at the environmental assessment as having made any real commitment. It's just trying to do the best to look at what might be the environmental impact of the most likely thing, which would have the maximum environmental impact. But obviously no decisions are being made on that at this time.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate it. And Corman.
Thanks, Dave. I also wanted to add, and a apology for getting here a little bit late. Thanks for letting me speak, even though I'm not a member of this committee, but I just wanted to say one advantage of this property environmentally, which we received several emails about environmental issues going forward. So I want to address that. So one advantage of this property being on this, we could loop it into the same footprint as some of the other buildings and possibly be able to do geothermal for the several of our, couple of our existing buildings plus a new building. So this, and I will be pushing for and have been pushing for this new building if we do want, decide to do it to be net zero. So thank you.
Rich, you had something else?
I did. I just want to let you know I was contacted by a reporter from the Voice, and they had a story about this purchase. And I had said that that we would be holding this committee hearing today and that there would be likely consideration of this issue next week at our legislature meeting. And I was hoping that he would publish that. They have not updated the story, but I appreciate the members of the public who have attended. And I encourage you to follow us and certainly make your comments as we go along, particularly when we get to the point where we will be considering design of the building. Happy to hear what you have to say. So thank you.
I am in support of purchasing, I'm not on the committee, so thank you, Dave, for letting me speak, but I am in favor of purchasing these two properties. I think my colleagues have mentioned in the past in our discussions, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. There are very few times in downtown city of Ithaca that you are going to have two properties that are older buildings that will be available. And as far as our constituents are concerned, this is the center point for all of our districts, except kind of for Dryden. Dryden's a little bit further out there. But this really does make sense right now. As far as I'm concerned, I do see this as an investment. As we all know, property costs have been going up year after year, and the price that we are going to enter into this negotiation with, I foresee this being a very wise investment. Thank you.
Martha,
So we're debating the merits of the purchase or the EAF, because I don't. I could wait.
EAF, right.
All right, I'll wait until we're actually on the acquisition of the system.
okay, yes, everybody's done. All in favor, resolution B. Unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to resolution A, authorizing the acquisition of property for a new downtown county government office building, ID 10301. I so move. 5 seconds. Comments, Martha?
I'm on the committee either, so if I'd be happy to wait for committee members or take a shot.
Rich?
I'll come back.
Okay. I would point out an important piece of the story here is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth whereas that there are county offices in the county courthouse that the state of New York, space that the state of New York needs. The county clerk, the district attorney, they've been waiting a very long time. They told us years and 2 decades ago that they wanted that space. That's what led to us being here instead of over there, which is where we used to be. But so all other things being equal, we really, the status quo can't remain. We really have to do something. When I came on the legislature almost 20 years ago, I remember almost the first conversation I had with a staff person was, we're really trying to buy that bank building on the corner. We think it's up for sale and we really, Kathy's not, right? You know, we really think we might get it. It would be strategic and who knows about the lawyer's office, blah, blah, blah. So 20 years ago. Now, if anybody thinks government isn't nimble and quick to act, you know, it's true or not. Anyway, this is a strategic decision. It is an important decision to make, to have our campus be as contiguous, as compact as possible, potentially as energy efficient as possible, as Andy has mentioned. And I do have history in the attorney's building. When I was running for Congress, I spent, Wally Wiggins, who's the main partner, gave me an office to work out of for 1.5 years. And so that's, frankly, I sat in one of those offices for 1.5 years making phone calls. So I know the building well, and I think the agreement to enable the tenants to stay for a chunk of time is, I think, very, yeah, we really congratulate the staff, Jonathan, and the attorney the other person we hired is with Lisa and other staff to work that out. Is really terrific. And frankly, that gives the county time to really analyze our staffing needs. But in any case, we know that that's strategic, and I think it's a really important decision. I would second what Rich said about trying to move quicker than slowly, trying to move as quickly as possible on some kind of definition on the Sear Street parcel as well, so that can move ahead. So thanks very much for letting me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for that little bit of history. We spent a lot of time working on this building and trying to decide what to do and how to do it. One of the things that it will do is it will consolidate pretty much as much of the county staff in one spot as is possible. Okay, which will increase the number of residents downtown in this facility, which will also increase the need for parking. And with the green initiatives, we are constantly buying new electric vehicles who need charging stations. And I propose that down the road, we do that on the 400 block. Okay, as well as whatever else the next legislature decides, because I believe that's when that will happen. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. So I'm going to open it up to anybody else that would like to speak. Deborah had her hand up first, and then Rich.
Yeah, thank you, David. I know that there are people out there who don't understand why we would buy these two buildings after we bought the property on Toyota Street. And I think that having the all three properties serves a number of interests, not just county interests, but public interests. For example, it makes it much easier for us to make some kind of arrangement to build affordable housing on Sear Street, which the residents have been quite definite about requesting. It allows us to use some of the remainder of that property for parking and perhaps electric charging infrastructure. It also means that we don't have to tear down that pretty old red house, and we might be able to rehab that or sell it. It does consolidate most of the county's workforce in one contiguous parcel. And it means that we'll be replacing built and paved infrastructure with built and paved infrastructure, so that reduces the environmental impact of what we do. And I'm sure I'm only touching on a few of the many reasons why this is a good choice, even though we already do own the property in Toyota. So I will be voting in support of this.
I add one thing to that. It will also save the county several $1,000s a year in rent for the facilities that we currently rent. And that's something that people may not be aware of. So anyway, with that said, Rich, John, yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. First, I'd just like to note that this property is in District 4, and this is where we are, District 4 of the county legislature. And I want to assure all the other legislators that the day comes to get this building built, you'll continue to be welcome.
The Rich John Administrative Zone.
Okay. We'll see about it. Anyway, I wanted to address a letter, a note that came in to the legislature from one of the constituents who has expressed some upset about this decision. One questioning why we were thinking about this property when we already had the property in the 400 block of Tioga Street. And part of that was opportunity. that these properties on the corner of Buffalo and Tioga became available after we had already committed in the 400 block. And for all the reasons stated by my colleagues, it really does make sense to try to combine into one central campus. But this person also said this is not a good time to do it with the pandemic. And certainly the pandemic makes just about everything harder. But the decision we're considering here is really a 50-year decision, perhaps more. And we have to look well beyond the pandemic to what will really work for the county. And finally, this person was concerned about the expense to spend all this money. And it certainly is a lot of money. And it's taxpayer money. We do have it in fund balance, so we're not going to be going out to the market to borrow, I don't believe. But at the same time, I believe the way to think about it is not spending, but investments. That you're not losing value by buying real estate. You're transferring it from cash to land. And the history of land value in the city of Ithaca has been really a pretty stable and growing investment. I have some confidence that we will not lose value by investing in this land in either location. So I understand the concern. It's natural to wonder about those things, but I support the resolution because I think it is in the 50-year long-term interest and beyond of the county and its residents to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. I'll ask County Administrator if she has any comments she'd like to make. Please.
Thank you, Dave. I wasn't prepared to make comments. I agree with the comments that have been shared, that this has been a long time coming in terms of the purchase of the real estate. I think that the consolidation of county operations downtown will only add to the synergies and efficiencies of the workforce, as well as the environmental, the greening of our facilities and the opportunities there. So I'm excited about the opportunities that this purchase affords us, and I'm pleased to see it come into fruition.
Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you, Dave, for letting me make comments again. So the only thing I would add, I agree with what everybody else has said. And the only other thing I would add, which I don't know if it's said explicitly, but the 400 block of Tioga Street property is in a primarily residential area, blocks section. So this affords us to put a new county building in an area that is on a block that is already business and government, predominantly government and business related already. And so that goes, towards traffic, noise, lighting. And we did hear, some issues, some concerns about the residents on the Tioga Street block. So hopefully that will alleviate some of those concerns, and it could give us more flexibility in building too. Thank you.
Martha, did you want to speak again?
Yeah, just one thing. I thought maybe Sue Compton would, Lucy thought Sue Compton might come to me. Sue is one of the owners of the Boardman House. And a few years, when was it? 2 years ago when we were talking about this or Tioga Street, whatever it was, she asked me to come, walk through the Boardman House with her, and we talked about it, and they have concerns about what's built right next to them, which is reasonable. And Lisa was able to reach her in the last couple of days, so would love to hear what she had to say.
Sure. We had a phone conversation. I was making her aware that this was going to be discussed today. She had read through the agenda and the environmental impact statement. Said that she was pleased to see the county's consolidation and consideration of building downtown. and that she would have some concerns and feedback looking forward that she would like to share regarding the design of the building and its proximity to the Boardman House, et cetera. So I think she will be, I told her that this will be a long process in terms of design, and there will be plenty of opportunities for her to participate and share her feedback. So
Thanks so much for calling.
Everybody said everything they'd like to say. Let's move to a vote. All in favor? That's unanimous.
Thank God we can have executive sessions about something else now.
Yeah. I don't know what it would be though.
We actually run out of things.
Okay, we have managed to work our way through the agenda for this meeting. So at this point, we are adjourned. Rich wants to say something.
Before we adjourn, this is a temporary committee. And I was wondering if it's in order to have some discussion of where do we go from here, having fulfilled our main function. Will we continue to meet? Is there further business for this committee to attend to?
I think it should be forced over to the design committee.
Would it go to facilities and infrastructure from here, or budget?
Yes, subcommittee off at the time. That's what I'm thinking. What do you think, Mike?
There needs to be a group focusing on what we're doing downtown. I said that for 3 or 4 years. I'm awfully glad we had this. I hope that we have someone looking at space needs, looking at the issues that we've talked about the last 3 years, and be able to continue forward. We know that we've got at least a couple of years before at the most, at the end of these sections.
Right.
And, we don't need to build a building. We've got space, we've got big space. Talk about center of government. What, 10 years, maybe more, we talked about space needs, as Martha mentioned, going way back, when we were talking about buying these buildings and buying Coyote Street years ago. And it's the need to continue discussing that, which is what we do as well. Each, in my view, we do. I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mike. I'm just thinking that this is within the province of facilities and infrastructure, and cognizant of the load we're putting on our clerks and our county administration on the number of committees we have, it might be a suitable time to consider pushing that over to facilities and infrastructure, because that's essentially what they do as well.
Never.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that you brought this up, Rich. I agree that we're trying to find ways to lighten the load of meetings on staff. And perhaps as we get closer to actually building this property, we'll need to have a design committee and space studies and stuff like that. But from the sounds of that, we'll never get to that for another 2 to 3 years. So maybe for the time being, we could take a hiatus on having a special dedicated committee and move it to FMI for at least getting the process started. I don't know. I think that that's going to be an issue for leadership next year. Maybe we ought to leave that decision until then.
Well, I'm happy to continue as chair for the balance of my term.
I just don't know.
Even if we want to put it into FMI, subcommittee out of FMI, that's fine with me. I don't care. Somebody else will be taking this over after this year. And unfortunately, I wish I could be here to follow it through to fruition, but it's not going to happen. So anyway, Martha.
Oh, first off, I think to start a couple of years from now, It means you're not building until 5 years from now. So these things take a long time out. Let's say, for example, you want to, I say you, because I won't be here either, but you'll want to look at the staffing survey. There's just a lot to go into it. So I wouldn't say, I would think starting next year is a reasonable time to start. However, I think for the remainder of this year, there's still a decision of what to do with Sears Street. I would advocate strongly that this committee continue through with that decision. Do we want to sell part of it for housing? We want to keep part of it for a parking lot? What do we want to do with the Dennis building? And I think it would be the most efficient to continue with this group that's got this knowledge so far of the designs and the discussions we've already had about Sears Street. So I think there's work to be done, and I think you could certainly kind of move through the decision making and get that done this calendar year, so that that's buttoned up and there's a direction.
Well, I guess the best thing to do is I'll discuss this with the chair and see what she'd like us to do. Rich?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Martha. I don't know that was, it's confused now because we bought this property that was fulfilling the central function of what this committee was set up to do. But those questions remain, whether they're properly addressed by facilities and infrastructure or by the separate committee. I agree. I think we need to have that discussion and see what the charge to the Downtown Facilities Committee might be, if anything, going forward. I certainly would like to continue to be involved in those questions about Sears Street, and I was thinking I would do that through advocacy to facilities and infrastructure. But if we decide we need to maintain a separate committee, we do it that way.
I guess I'd like to maintain momentum so it actually gets done, this year.
Yeah,
I understand why you're pushing for it, Martha. That's fine. But I do have a question on whether or not we should make a decision on the Sears Street section prior to having a decision on the entire thing, other than buying the property. And what are we going to do with the new building? What's it going to end up being? So that we have everything in one package at one time, and then move forward with doing whatever it is we're going to do with the Sears Street area and parking lot area. So I just think it needs to be coordinated to such decision covering everything. Sean?
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave, in the sense that we have to look at this as a whole. If we sell off a portion of Sears Street, we're never going to get that back. And if we see that we need 70 parking spots instead of 20, then once the parcel is sold, it's sold. And we spent a lot of money on that property, and we can't get that back. So I don't see a reason to hurry this forward over the next 3 or 4 months. We're working on ARPA funds, we're working on the budget. We have a lot going on right now. And so, if it could be covered in F&I, or even having a special committee meeting, if there's something that comes up, I think that's fine. I don't foresee anything major coming up over the next 200 days, 150 days that we're gonna have to make massive decisions on.
Okay. Everybody happy at this point? We'll keep you all advised on where we're going. Speak with them and share and see what happens.
I think that it's not necessarily the decision of the people in this room. I think we need to talk to Leslie about this.
That's what I just said.
And I agree, because I don't think it's up to us to decide what our portfolio is changing to now that we've finished the portfolio we were originally given.
No, I think that's probably correct. Mike?
If this happens to be the last of these meetings, Dave, I just want to thank you for your leadership here.
Thank you very much.
Likewise. Okay, thank you.
It's really not hard to read meetings at all.
Well, that's you.
Okay, folks, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.